If you want to have some time and experience in the union, I say 100% go to Washington, go to wherever it is that there is work. And if you're trying to make it from the bottom up as a groundman, don't be afraid to try other states. It's going to be uncomfortable, but I like to say, there's growth and discomfort, and there really isn't much growth in comfort. Go out of your norms, go to Florida, go to Texas, go to these places that are less desirable, whether if the pay's not as good or the weather conditions aren't as favorable, but you're going to be working in the trade one way or another, and you're going to meet people that are going to give you more advice and exposure to the trade, and that in itself is already a one-up when it comes to the time when you get.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of CTQ. CTQ is a segment I do on the channel called Cruise the Questions, and this is where I take your guys' questions that you guys email me, put them in the comments on the YouTube videos, or message me on TikTok or Instagram, and I take your guys' questions and I answer them here to help you guys on your blue collar career pathways. Your questions can be about any trade. I'm a journeyman lineman by trade. That's what I talk about the most because that's what I'm most familiar and experienced about. But if you guys have questions about getting started in any trades, please ask your questions, because if I don't have an answer for you, I know enough people where I can get an answer to help you guys. So if you guys watched last week's episode, having the same guest on this one, he's a 6-step lineman apprentice in the Cal Nev apprenticeship. And today we're going to go over 3 questions that are regarding the lineman trade to help you guys who are looking to pursue a career in the lineman trade. So with that being said, Herman, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, good to be back, man.
All right, so these questions are going to be just off the top. He hasn't seen these questions, he doesn't know these questions, so these are going to be very raw for him.
As candid as it can be.
Exactly. These are just off the top of the dome. Okay, so we're going to hop into this first question coming from a guy named Hayden. He says, "Hey Austin, I just had a question for you. I'm wanting to become an apprentice lineman, just looking for a job, trying to get hired. My preferred job is to work for Mountain States or get in the union for Local 57, but I am a union book 3. I know it will be a long waiting game, and I was wondering if I should go to Washington, the state, and work for a tree crew up there. I could gain experience and it'll put me in the union so I can be a member. Then I could re-sign the books at Local 57 and put me higher in the books, or just work the tree crew for 6 months to a year, then start an apprenticeship for a line crew. Just wanted some advice because I know you had a foot in the door job for about a year before you became a lineman." So I think this kid, he messaged me on TikTok too. He's from Utah and he's
Right.
18 years old. So
Yeah. Well, the age is kind of a factor for sure, just in the sense of because you do want to be 21 if you have a CDL, in the sense of you can travel all across the states. I know it's a legal matter as far as the DOT and federal law. If you're under the age of 21, you're not allowed to work outside of the state that you have your your CDL license on. But as far as the fact that Hayden is willing to go state to state looking for work, that's kind of, he's on the right track in that sense, because as we discussed before, it's all about being hungry and doing everything you can to really make that end goal, whether if it's a journeyman lineman, journeyman pipe fitter, or welder, any of those trades, to do everything and anything in your power to make it happen, make it a reality. And so yeah, if you want to have some time and experience in the union, I say 100% go to Washington, go to wherever it is that there is work. And if you're trying to make it from the bottom up as a groundman, don't be afraid to try other states. It's going to be uncomfortable, but I like to say, there's growth and discomfort, and there really isn't much growth in comfort. So go out of your norms, go to Florida, go to Texas, go to these places that are less desirable, whether if the pay's not as good or the weather conditions aren't as favorable, but you're going to be working in the trade one way or another, and you're going to meet people that are going to give you more advice and exposure to the trade. And that in itself is already a one-up when it comes to the time when you get to apply for these Mountain States what is it, the interview process, the JTC, then you can already told them, like, listen, I know there's a lot of traveling. I've already done this. You know, you're creating a portfolio basically for yourself. And, you know, tree trimming, I think that's great. I know a lot of guys that came from tree trimming.
That's what I did.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's you know, clearing lines, and you do get a sense of the work in that sense. And, you know, it's body conditioning too, which is also a big deal. So
Yeah, I think the most valid point that you hit on is being 18 is going to be the biggest hurdle.
yeah, that's
Just
tough.
because your CDL, granted you have one, is only going to be good in the state that you got it in. Unless you're willing to go to Washington State and become a groundman on a power line tree trimming crew, which that's what I did when I got started in the union. That's how I got my foot in the door and started
Right.
working, and became a union member, and you know, started building those hours inside the union like that. But if you're gonna do that, which Herman was saying is good, I think that's a good idea, because if, based on your question, you know, the information you've given, if you have a way in like that, it's work experience.
Absolutely.
And it's showing that you're willing to travel, which is very important.
Yeah.
That I already know the interview board's going to want to see that, hey, oh well, you went from Utah to Washington because you're trying to get into the union and start working.
Right.
That's going to only look better like on your portfolio, like you were saying, or Texas or any of these other states. I know IBW local 611, Albuquerque, New Mexico, like they always have groundman spots open because no one wants to work there.
Yeah.
Like it's New Mexico, and it might be a job working 610s and you're getting $100 a day per diem, but it's in the middle of New Mexico. Like, who wants to go there? But if you're hungry enough and you want this enough,
Yeah.
I think you have to be willing to do that.
Exactly.
And with that, you're gonna have to be willing to transfer your license so you can legally drive in that state. You know, you can do that. You just have
Right.
to be willing to take that steps, and those steps might not be very easy. It can be complicated depending on the state. But like when I got into the apprenticeship, I wasn't 21 yet. So like my CDO was only good in the state of Washington. And I had to go through that process, which it was a pain in my butt, but I had to. I had
Right.
no other choice. Like I got called out to be an apprentice in the state of Oregon. I was a Washington resident. So I had to jump through the hoops in a literally matter of like a day. Like I had a call on a Thursday to work on Monday for the apprenticeship, and I had Friday to go to the DMV and get all my stuff figured out, which is like you have to get two proofs or a lease agreement of proof of residency in the state,
Yeah,
and like all
that's
those
the
hoops you have to
hardest,
jump
I think.
through. And I was willing to jump through those hoops because I had to. It's like
Yeah.
either I did it and I didn't become an apprentice lineman, or I did and I just had to do it. So like those are things you're gonna have to be willing to do. And I think by going to Washington and pursuing that, getting your foot in the door, start working out of local 77, I'm sure, because that's the local up there in Washington, is only going to look good on your resume.
100%. And I think one of the key things that I take from what you just said is you got to be willing to do that kind of work. You got to be willing to get out of the comfort zone and really just pursue it and not be afraid of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very nerve-wracking, especially being that young, not really knowing what's out there, but it's all about growing up and kind of buckling down and just in it for the ride, because it's going to be a bumpy one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I will say being young, 18, 19, and being able to, you're not quote unquote tied down. You don't have a family, a mortgage, and car payments and wife and kids and stuff, right? So it will be easier. Like when I got in the trade, I was single, and I didn't have a family. Like being able to travel was easy. Like if I needed to sleep in my car, I could.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't being
there's
like,
many
I have to
times.
get a hotel or I have to find a place to live because I have a wife and a kid or whatever.
Right.
Or you leave them behind, which, is a common thing that guys will have to do. Just be like, hey, this is temporary pain for
Yeah.
long-term gain type of deal.
It's an
So
investment.
honestly, yeah, I think, dude, you just have to take that step. If you have a way in to start working, what I was called the branch manager because I was the grunt on the tree crew. So all I did was, dude, I was just hauling brush, tree limbs all day long, throwing them in the chipper. So I did for 6-7 months straight. And I started to learn more about the rigging and like, actually seeing what the trade, because the tree trades, so it's a
it's no
lot of
joke,
fun.
man.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I actually
it's
really
real work.
enjoyed doing that once I actually got into the apprenticeship, because my foreman's like, hey dude, like you've been here for like 6 months. Do you want us to become an apprentice? That way you can start going up in the bucket. you can actually go to apprenticeship training classes and learning how to climb and do all that type of stuff. And I was
Right.
like, sure. So, like you said in your previous episode, I think he wrote me a letter of recommendation. The tree trimming apprenticeship's not as competitive or as the lineman apprenticeship. So they were just kind of like, you're already working for a tree crew, and my GF's like wrote me a good letter of recommendation, and then all it's like the next week I showed up, I was an apprentice tree trimmer.
Yeah.
So then I started to learn all the technicalities of the tree trade, like the rigging is a huge thing. Like
Oh, absolutely.
all that stuff you'll learn in the tree trade. It's not directly the same stuff as a lineman trade, but you'll learn a lot of the same skills that will be extremely useful once you get into the lineman trade as an apprentice or a groundman.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good crash course, and don't quote me on this too strongly because I'm not too sure, but I do believe Cal Nev has an apprenticeship of tree trimmers, and that's all they do. They just work on these down lines, and you even learn like the fundamentals of grounding. Like, sorry, like my training through my apprenticeship for tree trimming says I'm not allowed to touch those wires until I physically see grounds and know that it's de-energized, and that's true. That's the practice that us in the trade have.
Exactly.
Is something's not completely de-energized until it's tested and grounded. So it kind of overlaps quite a bit. And again, Austin, you said it right. Like rigging is phenomenal. Like it's those tree trimmer guys are something else. Like,
Yeah.
they know their knots way better than any
Climbing too. Climbing is a big aspect. I remember climbing trees, as a kid, but then it's different climbing it with a set of climbing gear with your gaffs, and it's trees are way sketchier to climb than
No,
a
these
pole.
guys are like ninjas, dude. I see them jumping from like limb to limb with ropes. From
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
think it's great. Yeah, if you can go to Washington, do that. You know what I mean? Maybe even get into the apprenticeship, become a journeyman tree trimmer. I know that apprenticeship's like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
That'll put you right at 21, 22 years old. And then you already have that ticket under your belt too, which would be great. And then when you go do interviews or whatever for the lineman apprenticeship, like, hey, listen, like I already went through one apprenticeship. I passed that. I'm a journeyman tree trimmer, but I want to pursue the lineman trade. I was working with those guys hand in hand. That's the kind of work that I think I would, I want to do.
Yeah.
It's just a whole segue. I think that can only work in the benefit if you really want to pursue the
Absolutely.
lineman trade.
And again, don't knock going state to state as a groundman, honestly, because maybe you'll get into that apprenticeship, and I can't stress enough. The end, the goal is become a journeyman lineman and work in Colorado or Utah or wherever. You can do that with a yellow ticket from any state. So
Exactly.
you know,
All right. So with that being said, let's hop into another question submitted via email. This one's coming from I don't know what his name is, but he says, "Hi Austin, I love the videos on YouTube and they really make it feel like a bright future can be ahead of me. I'm 17 years old and I'm from Fresno, California. The journeyman lineman trade I know is something I would want to take on, and I just want to ask you for a helping hand, a finger in the right direction of where to get started. Is a lineman school necessary to succeed in this trade? If so, what would be a good one to attend in my state? I've seen schools like the Elite Lineman School in Georgia, which helps you get your Class A CDL, and then the Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee of the California, Nevada Line Construction Industry. I hope you see my email, Austin, and keep making the videos, man." So I'm assuming he's asking about, lineman school. And then there's also that confusion I see in his question about lineman school. And then he says the apprenticeship, which are two different things.
no,
But
absolutely.
what would you tell the 17-year-old from Fresno? And it's just down the road from where we're at right now.
Yeah, I'd say honestly, I commend you, man. That's pretty awesome that you're already looking into that. I wish when I was your age, like college was number one at all times. Like college is where you have to go, and a lot of people don't realize schools. I mean, I personally didn't know for sure that school was not my forte. Like I was just told to do this and it sucked, and I just committed to that, went to college, and it didn't cut out for me. So yeah, again, kudos to you, bud. But being that young, I think it's awesome. It's a little tricky in that sense because this is a waiting game. This trade is a waiting game. You got to wait to turn the right age for yourself. Being 18, have a CDL. You have
That's
to wait.
one of the requirements too,
Yeah,
to even apply
100%.
for an apprenticeship. Is
Exactly.
to be 18, have
into
a class,
this specific apprenticeship.
a
Absolutely.
CDL or a high school diploma or GED.
Right.
So
Right. So yeah, line school, it's really expensive. I don't want to talk bad about it because I went through it and I learned a lot from it, and it made me realize that yes, this is something I want to do, and kind of ignited that passion that I have for the trade I do now. But yeah, 100%. I would say go to that if you can afford it. If not, there's obviously cheaper options. I think Georgia would be a great option if that's the case. If they have a cheaper tuition, essentially, you just want to have that exposure, that experience. I think it's a good way to go about it as far as seeing if this is something for you, physically, mentally, all that stuff. Just because you don't really know that you can do this until you get on a pole and you're up there and you're
Exactly.
like, holy smokes, I'm 40 feet from the ground, I'm hanging off this rope. And, you know, I've been hurt. I've known guys that got hurt, and it can be kind of a life-changing experience for sure, and a humbling one at that. But yeah, so there's other options. I know, and it's a waiting game. But I know that personally, I know there's a one in Los Angeles, East LA Trade Tech, I believe it's called.
Yeah, I've heard about that one.
That's community college straight up. It's like $20 a unit or something. Essentially, you get everything you get out of NLC for a fraction of the price. It's I don't know what the numbers are, but it sure as heck isn't $20,000-$30,000. And with that, you get just the same experience. You get all that you need. The only thing, it's a waiting game because everybody else.
Do you know if your CDL there?
You can't get your CDL there. I mean, even not at the NLC, you can get a C. At least the one I went to, I couldn't get a CDL. But yeah, I mean, you know, your graduation gift, ask your parents like, hey, pay for my license, you know,
Yeah.
a CDL license, or pay for my tuition to go to this. Beats having to pay for 4 years of a college degree, you know, versus you just pay for one semester's worth of line school. Or even being that young, I mean, I'd look into the utilities too, honestly. Anybody that does the work, do the utilities. I mean, look into that, test that. I think it's great that if they see someone young kind of already interested in that path, like that's already a one up for them, because then they're just seeing like, oh, we've got this young guy that we can groom and keep in our company for that long.
That's what they like.
Yeah.
That's what they like. Being from Fresno, though, that's PG&E land, right?
Yeah, PG&E. So I hear it's pretty competitive. A lot of people want to get into it, but hey, man, there's always work. There's things getting burnt down. There's winds, storms, all that stuff, and so you know, it's never ending. This journey is never going to end as far as
We've talked about too on previous episode and kind of briefly on this one too is the you can limit yourself to wanting just to stay local, like work for PG&E or do CalNav.
Mm-hmm.
And in his question, he kind of says, you know, like, do I go to line school or do I apply for the apprenticeship? But the line school is just a stepping stone.
right.
Especially if you want to work and get an apprenticeship in a place like California, there is no such thing as going to a lineman school like the one in Georgia you're talking about and coming back out here and you're not a lineman. It's a pre-apprenticeship training program that's just teach you the basics, really to show you if it's even something like you were saying you want to do. So people have, for some reason, there's like something, I don't know if it's the way that they
society with school and having some sort of degree. I don't know,
I don't know if it's somewhat how they market it, like, hey, come to lineman school to become a lineman, but it's not how it is.
No.
So just know if you go to the school, I'm not telling you not to, and I'm not going to be 100% for it either. It's something that you have to decide. I've made many videos about this topic, is that if you do go, you're not going to be a lineman when you're done with it. So if you want to come back out, you're still going to have to apply for that CalNav JTC or SWOLCAT or Mountain States or Northwest or Albat or NEAT or CellCat or Missouri Valley. There's all the apprenticeships throughout the country that you can apply for, and you're just going to be willing to...
Well, heck, I'll put it this way. If you're willing to go to Georgia for school, why not go to Georgia and sign their books? Why not skip the school portion and just go sign the books somewhere, and anywhere really that's local, or that's a IBW union, and sign the groundman books and start digging holes, start working whatever, and you'll get exposure. And that's honestly the free and most legit way to
I try
really
to tell people that's the way. If I were to restart it, that's what I would do.
Right.
Is just because line schools, they just increasingly, I get more expensive because they get so much more
You're
popular.
just going to be one of 100,000 other guys that went to line school.
Exactly. So I think if you can be that person when it comes to interviews, different than the other 100 people interviewing that day.
Yeah.
Like, what sets you apart from someone else is like, well, I didn't go to line school, but when I graduated high school, I got my Class A CDL, and then I went in all to the union books, signed the out of work books. Hey, I took a call in Albuquerque, New Mexico as a groundman. I went there, worked there. You know, it's 3 states away from where I'm from. And I want to get experience. I want to start working. This is something I want to do. I've been doing it now for 6 months or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
There's all these other applicants. The only experience they have is they pay $20,000 to go to line school.
And they've done
So-
everything everybody else has done.
Exactly.
So.
So I don't know. I think you're headed in the right direction. At 17, you got your head on. You know, you're
Pointed
pointing.
in the
I'm
right
going to point
direction.
you in the right direction right now.
sure.
What we were just talking about is if you're willing to go to Georgia, like Herman was saying, to go to line school. Why? If you're already, that's literally across the country from Fresno.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's almost as
Do a
far
road
across.
trip. Sign every book on the way there, dude.
Exactly, bro. Like if you want to stop in Albuquerque and sign the book 611, I bet you could get a grommet collar pretty quick. You just gonna need that CDL.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just
And not
Oh.
to say you need a CDL as a groundman right off the bat.
Right.
But again, it's like you're just one of 100 other groundmen. Like, okay, well, this guy's got a CDL. Yeah, we're going to give it to him instead.
because we need a guy who drives a truck.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Actually, when I worked in Albuquerque, New Mexico as a lineman, after I topped out, I was a pretty fresh journeyman. We actually had a groundman who was from Oregon, and he was down there. He was under 21, and he was working down there for probably a week, 2 weeks, and then the GF's like, "Hey, dude, you know, you have your CDL, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." He's like, "How come you don't ever drive the truck?" He's like, "Well, I never transferred it to New Mexico, so I can't legally drive." He's like, "Well, you're no good to us then. Like,
Yeah.
if you can't even drive a truck legally, then why are you even here?"
Right.
So you kind of gave him the option of like, "Hey, I'm going to lay you off, or you can just drag up."
Right.
So the kid ended up just dragging up
Oh.
and going back up to Oregon, but he just wasn't willing to take that step. Like we talked previously in the question, the question before is that CDL, like you have to be willing and just know that if you're under 21, your CDL is not good across state lines.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to be willing to take the steps to transfer it if you want to take a call. Make it legal, do it right, and just show that you want to do it. You know what I mean? And I think that's going to be super important. So
Absolutely.
that's what we tell you, and that's what we would point in the right direction. Do something like we just both told you. All right, let's do one more question. This guy's coming from a guy named Hunter saying, "Hey, Austin, my name's Hunter. I'm 20, almost 21. I've been considering joining the lineman apprenticeship in the Mountain States once to get my CDL. I currently work as a welder fabricator and need to save money before I go take a CDL course, as it will take about a month. My question is, though, I currently have a dog and would much prefer to have her with me. But I could see that being an issue, as from your videos as an apprentice, I could be working 8 hours a day or 16 hours a day and any number of days. Have you seen any linemen, primarily apprentices, who travel and still have a dog/pet? That's probably my main concern with the career change at this time. Thank you."
Yeah, I can empathize, dude, because I want a dog more than anything, but it's what we've been working like. I've been working 12, 13 hours every day where I literally get home and I just try to think, what is my dog going to do at home? You know, I'd rather have a cat at that point or even a mouse. But yeah, I think it's possible. It's possible, but again, it's going to be more expenses in the sense of you have to have a dog walker set up, someone to let the dog in and out, or you know, you have to have all these things like an air temperature gauge for your trailer or your apartment or anything like that, like indoor cameras. How you keep an eye on it, because I mean, the last thing you want is if you love your dog that much, you don't want to neglect it, and you certainly don't want something bad to happen. I've seen line dogs. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, I have too.
That's-
There's
it's
plenty
awesome.
of journeymen out there that bring their dogs to work.
Yeah, it's rare because I think it's a liability and this and that. But this guy in particular, he had his dog Kevin. He was an awesome dog, and you know, we were working out in the boonies, so it didn't even matter. So he just let his dog run off into the woods, and we get work done, and you know, he'd come back. Mind you, this is a foreman, so he had his own truck and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible. It's gonna take a lot of work in that sense. If you have a girlfriend that she's willing to travel with you, or maybe if your parents can hopefully come out and take care of her, or you could drop it off at your parents' house. I totally get it though. Like, that's man's best friend, that's your bud, and I can see why you want to keep them with you, but it's gonna be tough because like you're not gonna see your mom, your kids, your wife, your whoever it is, your best friends, like you're not going to see them. It's kind of the same story with your pets too, it's just because you're literally going to be working all day and all night sometimes. And I mean, if coming home to that best partner of yours is number one, then you'll do everything you can. Honestly, you'll find ways to do that. So again, there's a lot of sitting and this and that, like sitters.
It all depends, I think, on your living situation too. If you're doing an
Also,
Airbnb or if you're doing a trip, like, does the Airbnb, do they allow pets? Or if you're getting an apartment, do they allow pets?
Right.
Or if you're living in a trailer, like you were saying, having air monitors and making sure that, hey, is my dog going to be fine sitting in a trailer? Or am I going to have him on a leash outside, but is it 110 degrees outside? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you can make it work. Now, I haven't personally seen apprentices have dogs with them, at least at work. Like, they're not bringing them to work, and they might have them back at the trailer or wherever they're living. Like, but hey, if you're traveling by yourself in this trade, I mean, having a companion like a dog would be awesome. But it is just going to take a few extra steps to really make sure that you can make it work, and you can make it work. It's just going to take a little extra work.
It's also, I think is also important. You have to realize where you're working also. Like, if Austin had a dog here and we're 15 minutes from the closest civilization, basically up a mountain, you can ask neighbors perhaps, but I don't think like a dog service would be out here, and especially in a town of like 3,000 people.
Yeah.
But if you're like working in the city, 100% all day you can get someone to come in every hour on the hour if it really came down to it. But that's something just taking in mind, where you're located, how far you are from services that provide walking and all that good stuff. So
so it's possible. I won't say it is impossible. It's just going to take a few extra steps to make it work.
Right.
And I wouldn't have the expectation that you're able to just like have your dog with you at work and stuff. Like you're saying, it's liability issues. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen guys who bring their dogs to work who aren't the foreman, and the dog has to sit in the cab of the truck while they're working, because you can't have a dog running around, especially if you're working on the street. This and that. They're
Heavy
in the way.
machinery,
It's just
all that
exactly. But I mean, there might be a situation, you might be working in the boondocks somewhere as an apprentice, and maybe you're on a cool crew, your foreman's cool, and maybe he's like, yeah, dude, bring your dog to work. Like, I don't care. That should work. And you know what I mean? Like, it's too hard to tell you from where we're at, and you not currently working or really anything, to be like, tell you, yeah, that'll work or it won't work. You know what I mean? So it's possible. It's not impossible. It's just, you're going to have to try to find a happy medium to make it work. And it's going to take a few extra steps.
Absolutely. So.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of CTQ. Probably the last time you'll see Herman on an episode, because this is going to be uploaded next Friday.
Okay.
And thanks to Herman for being a guest twice on the show.
Heck yeah.
It's been awesome to have him, just because he's an apprentice in the trade right now. So he's in the dirt. He's in the trenches, dude. So
literally every day.
Every day he's in the trenches. He's doing it. He's seeing it. He's doing the book work. He knows what it's like out in the field. He knows the culture of it. So he's provided a lot of awesome information between last episode and this episode, and really appreciate it, Herman.
Absolutely, dude.
And maybe like in the future someplace, when you're
It'll happen.
We'll like meet
Maybe.
up somewhere.
Yeah.
Like,
be on Star and be like, oh, dude, I got my cell phone. Let's take a video
dude, we
real
could do
quick.
like a another podcast episode.
It's like, where are you at now?
Yeah, exactly. So,
Maybe something.
all right, guys, with Blue Collar Edu, here to expose, teach, educate you guys about blue collar career opportunities, how to get started in skilled trades. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.